Okay, let's unpack this. You've put in the hours, right? You've really wrestled with the grammar, built up a decent vocabulary.
Yeah.
You can build sentences, technically perfect ones even. But then you jump into a real chat, or maybe you're watching a movie, scrolling social media,
Yeah.
and bam, phrases that just make zero literal sense. Break a leg,
Right.
spill the beans.
Right. Or just what's up?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Suddenly it feels like those rules you learned are, I don't know, incomplete.
What?
And sounding genuinely natural seems miles away.
It's that classic sticking point, isn't it? Where the English you learned in class bumps up against how people actually talk.
Yeah.
And literal translation just, it fails you instantly. You know the words, the blocks, but you're missing that secret sauce.
The secret sauce. I like that. That's
Yeah.
it. Exactly. There's this whole other layer, right? Expressiveness, cultural stuff baked into everyday English that you just don't get from a textbook.
Percent.
And that's what we're really digging into today. How to master idioms and slang, bridge that gap, and unlock, more advanced, authentic English.
We've gathered quite a bit of material here, notes, articles, all focused on this, looking not just at what they are, but really why they matter so much for sounding natural,
Uh-huh.
and crucially, how you, the listener, can actually get comfortable understanding and, importantly, using them.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is take all this info and we'll demystify that hidden level of English for you. We want to give you the insights, the tools, the strategies to go beyond just being correct.
To being genuinely fluent,
Yeah,
connected.
exactly. So let's dive right in. The big question. Why should you actually care about idioms and slang? You might think, look, people understand me, my grammar's okay.
Why bother with these weird phrases?
Yeah.
It's a fair point.
Yeah.
But the sources are really clear on this. If your goal is sounding natural, truly natural, and understanding native speakers easily, well, idioms and slang aren't just extras, they're fundamental.
Okay. How so?
Well, the most obvious reason is just how often they pop up. Native speakers use them constantly, all the time, without even thinking about it.
Right.
So if you don't get them, you're missing.
Right.
Well, you're missing the real meaning sometimes, the tone, the nuance. You can feel a bit left out.
Like you're only getting half the picture.
Exactly. And it's not just about understanding. Using them correctly yourself.
Yeah.
That signals a whole different level of fluency.
Oh, okay.
It shows you get more than just the dictionary definitions and the grammar rules.
Yeah.
You understand the cultural context, the unwritten rules of the language. It's about kind of fitting in linguistically.
They also just make the language more interesting, right? More vivid.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about saying that test was very easy versus that test was a piece of cake.
Yeah, totally different feel.
The idiom just adds this image, this casual confidence.
Yeah.
Standard phrasing can be a bit flat sometimes. Idioms are like these little packets of culture and imagery.
And slang. That's a whole other level of dynamism.
It really is.
Yeah.
Slang is, plugged directly into current trends, pop culture, specific groups, online groups, younger speakers, regional variations.
But you need it to understand what's going on now.
Exactly.
Mhm.
If you want to navigate social media, understand modern movies or music, connect with certain groups, you need some awareness of slang. Yes, it changes fast. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
But ignoring it means missing a big part of contemporary communication.
And just for basic listening, you have to know them. You can't hit pause on a real conversation to figure out under the weather or...
Hit the nail on the head. No, you can't. They're used quickly. They're shortcuts for meaning.
Right.
And the sources also point out something cool. Some idioms actually give you these little windows into history or cultural thinking, like spill the beans.
You mentioned that one. Where's it from?
Well, the theory is it goes back to ancient Greece, voting. They used beans, dropped them in jars. If someone knocked over the jars.
They spilled the beans, revealed the vote early.
Exactly. So these aren't always just random. Some have real stories.
That is fascinating. So ignoring them. It's like watching a movie in black and white.
That's a great analogy. You get the plot, maybe, but you miss all the color, the texture, the richness. Mastering them, or at least getting comfortable with them, is really vital for reaching genuine fluency, for engaging properly with real-world English.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. They're clearly important. So let's clarify. We keep saying idioms and slang. What's the actual difference? Are they the same thing?
Good question. They get lumped together sometimes, but they function quite differently. Let's tackle idioms first. The sources define them as essentially fixed phrases, a group of words where the overall meaning isn't predictable from the individual words.
So it's figurative, not literal.
Exactly. Break a leg is the
Yeah.
perfect example. It literally makes no sense. But figuratively, it means good luck. Everyone understands that convention.
And you said fixed phrases, meaning you can't really change the words around.
Precisely. It's cost an arm and a leg, not a leg and an arm. They're set units. They're embedded in the culture, learned by convention. They add that color, that imagery we talked about. Kick the bucket is a much more vivid, though very informal image than just died.
And their origins can be kind of murky, like bite the bullet.
Yeah, that one's thought to come from surgery, before anesthesia. Soldiers would literally bite a bullet to cope with the pain. So the idiom means facing something difficult. Wow. Okay. And their formality varies. Some are quite informal. Others are common even in, say, business emails, depending on the context. They're like verbal shortcuts.
Right.
Quick ways to express a complex idea.
Got it. Fixed meaning, non-literal, culturally understood shortcuts. So how is slang different?
Slang's main defining features are its informality and its connection to specific groups or times. Its words or phrases, used in very casual settings. Often there is a more direct, standard English equivalent, unlike many idioms.
And it changes much faster.
Oh, absolutely. That's key. Slang is incredibly fluid. What's cool or sick or lit today might sound really dated or cringe, as they say now, very quickly.
Right. Think about words from like the 90s, rad or something.
Exactly. Or groovy from even earlier. Slang marks time periods, but also groups.
Groups, how so?
It often functions as a marker of identity. Teen slang, internet slang, slang specific to gamers or musicians. It signals you're in the know, part of that group. Examples are everywhere: awesome, hangout, chill, vibe, maybe GOAT for greatest of all time, more recently.
Okay. And the key usage point.
Informality. Slang is almost exclusively for informal situations. You would not use, say, lit, or maybe even hang out in a formal report or a job interview. It would be completely out of place.
So recapping the difference. Idioms are about fixed figurative meanings, understood culturally. Formality varies. Slang is about informal usage, group identity, and it's constantly shifting.
That sums it perfectly. Both are essential for understanding the full picture of English, but you definitely approach learning them and using them in different ways.
Okay, that distinction is super helpful. Which brings us to the really practical part. How do you actually learn this stuff? Let's start with idioms. What do the sources recommend?
Right, because just memorizing lists of idioms, it doesn't really stick, does it?
Not for me, anyway.
No.
Yeah.
The number one strategy, overwhelmingly, is context is king. Don't just learn bite the bullet means endure difficulty.
Okay.
Learn it in a sentence. See how it's used naturally. Like, the company wasn't doing well, so they had to bite the bullet and lay some people off. Understand the situation where it fits.
So when you find a new one, maybe write down the sentence you heard it in and its meaning.
Yes, and then this is crucial. Try to make your own sentence using it. That active step really helps cement it.
Makes sense. What else?
Grouping them can help. Instead of a random list, maybe group idioms by theme. All the ones about money, like cost an arm and a leg, break the bank, feel the pinch. Or idioms about emotions, get cold feet, wear your heart on your sleeve.
Oh, I like that. Makes it more organized in your head.
Exactly. And visualization is powerful too, like you mentioned earlier. Actually picture someone spilling beans or trying to bite a metal bullet. That imagery helps lock in the figurative meaning.
Maybe using flashcards, but with the idiom, the meaning, an example sentence, and maybe a little drawing.
Perfect. Dynamic flashcards. And actively test yourself. Don't just read the definition. Try to recall the idiom when you need it, or guess the meaning from context before you look it up. That retrieval practice is key.
And just listening a lot, paying attention in movies, podcasts.
Absolutely essential. Immerse yourself. Listen actively for them. Try to figure them out from this situation, but also don't overwhelm yourself. The sources suggest consistency over quantity. Learn maybe 2 or 3 new idioms a week, not 50.
And review them regularly.
Yes, spaced repetition. Keep revisiting them so they move into your long-term memory. And then, the final step.
Use them.
Gotta use them, even if it feels awkward at first. Try them out in low-pressure situations, maybe writing in a journal or chatting with a language exchange partner who knows you're learning.
Get them off the page and into your active vocabulary.
That's the goal.
Okay, those are great strategies for idioms. Now, slang. You said it's different because it changes so fast. It feels like trying to, I don't know, nail jelly to a wall.
Huh. That's not a bad analogy.
Yeah.
It is slippery. So the approach needs to be different. Since slang is so tied to current culture and informal interactions, the main strategy is ongoing, authentic exposure.
Meaning?
I mean, you need to be where native speakers are using it casually. Social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube videos, especially vlogs or channels by younger creators, music lyrics, reality TV.
So pay attention to how people are actually talking now, informally.
Exactly. Notice the words and phrases that keep popping up in those casual contexts. But, and this is a huge but from the sources, exercise caution.
Caution. Why?
Because slang changes so fast, using an outdated term can make you sound, well, out of touch.
Or even silly.
Right, like using groovy now, unironically.
Yeah.
Precisely. And worse, some slang can be offensive or very specific to a certain group, and using it incorrectly or in the wrong context can be awkward or even insulting. So you really need to be sure about its current meaning, its connotation, and whether it's appropriate for you to use it and in that situation.
So understanding register, formal versus informal is critical here.
Absolutely vital. Slang is firmly informal. You need that internal filter that tells you, okay, for friends, yes. Okay, for my boss, absolutely not. Knowing when not to use it is just as important as knowing the word itself.
So learn in context, like idioms, try to figure out the meaning first.
Definitely. And be aware of regional differences. Slang can vary hugely from the UK to the US to Australia, even city to city. Focus on a slang that's relevant to the people you interact with or the type of English you're most exposed to.
And don't try to force it.
Please don't. That's a key piece of advice. Slang should sound natural, effortless. If you're unsure about a term or if it feels weird coming out of your mouth, just stick to standard English. Clarity is always better than an awkward attempt at being cool.
Maybe ask native speakers.
Great idea. If you're in a casual setting and hear something you don't know, just ask, hey, what does X mean? Or, do people still say Y? Most people are happy to explain. And focus on common, widely understood slang first, rather than trying to learn every niche term you see online.
Okay, that makes sense. Be an observer, be cautious, focus on relevance and naturalness.
Exactly. It's more about understanding and recognition first, and then very careful gradual adoption if it feels right.
All right, let's get really concrete now. Can we run through some absolute must-know idioms, the ones that are just everywhere in everyday English?
Definitely. Let's list a few super common ones from the sources. We've already used a piece of cake.
Meaning very easy.
Yep, that presentation, piece of cake. Okay, next, break a leg.
Good luck, especially before a performance or something stressful.
Exactly. You have an exam tomorrow, break a leg, then there's bite the bullet.
Facing something difficult or unpleasant you can't avoid.
Right. I didn't want to work late, but I had to bite the bullet to finish the report. How about hit the nail on the head?
That means you described something perfectly, got it exactly right.
Precisely. Your analysis of the problem really hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Next, spill the beans.
Reveal a secret.
Yep. Okay, stop being mysterious, spill the beans, what's the big news? And feeling unwell.
Under the weather. Not seriously ill, just a bit sick.
Correct. I might stay home today feeling a bit under the weather.
Yeah.
Something very expensive.
Cost an arm and a leg.
You got it. Getting the car repaired cost an arm and a leg when it's someone else's turn to decide or act.
The ball is in your court.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I've given you my proposal. Now the ball is in your court. Something that happens very rarely.
Once in a blue moon.
Uh-huh. We only go out for fancy dinners once in a blue moon.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, doing a job badly or cheaply to save time or money. That's to cut corners.
Right. The builders cut corners on the materials, and now the roof leaks.
Exactly. Getting comfortable with just these 10 will make a noticeable difference in understanding and sounding more natural.
Those are definitely super useful. Okay, let's switch gears to the informal side. What about some common slang terms you hear a lot in casual conversation, remembering the caution we talked about, of course?
Right. Caution is key. But here's some widely understood ones. Chill or chill out.
Relax, calm down, hang out.
Yeah. Don't stress about it. Just chill out.
Yeah.
Or let's just chill at my place tonight. Very common. Still going strong. Awesome.
Meaning great, fantastic, impressive.
Yep. You got the job. That's awesome. Then hang out.
Spend time together informally.
Correct. Do you want to hang out this weekend? How about dude?
Oh, yeah. Informal address, usually for a guy, but also just an exclamation.
Right, dude. That was crazy.
Yeah.
It's very informal, maybe more common among younger speakers, but widely recognized. Describing the atmosphere.
Vibe.
Yes.
Yes.
This cafe has a really relaxed vibe. A more contemporary one, used carefully, lit.
Meaning amazing, exciting, definitely more generational, maybe.
Definitely. That party was lit. Use with awareness of your audience. A simple one for no problem.
No worries, especially common in places like Australia and the UK. but understood widely now.
Exactly. Thanks for the help. No worries. Expressing minor disappointment.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't come. Bummer. Giving praise informally.
Kudos, like props or credit.
Right. Kudos to the team for meeting the deadline. It's informal, but maybe slightly more formal than some other slang. And finally, something genuine or really good. Legit.
Short for legitimate, but used more broadly now.
Exactly. This pizza place is legit. So these give you a flavor of common contemporary slang again. Listen for how they're used before you jump in.
Okay, fantastic examples. So we know what they are, why they matter, how to learn them, and we have some common ones. But the sources really stress this next part, knowing when and how to use them, the nuances.
Absolutely. This is the higher level skill, moving beyond just knowing the phrase to having the intuition for using it appropriately. And the biggest factor, as we've touched on, is formality.
Right. Slang informal, idioms mostly informal or semi-formal, but it varies.
Exactly. A piece of cake might be fine in many work emails, depending on the culture. Kick the bucket? Probably not. So you have to judge the specific idiom and the context.
Which means thinking about your audience, who are you talking to?
Paramount, friend, boss, customer, grandparent. Each requires a different linguistic calibration. You wouldn't use the same slang or idioms with your best friend as you would in a meeting with senior management.
Obvious when you say it, but easy to forget. And the context of the situation itself.
Critical. Casual coffee break versus formal presentation, text message versus academic essay.
Right.
You constantly need to assess the situation and adjust your language. And the golden rule? If in doubt, leave it out.
Meaning use standard English if you're not sure.
Yes, it's always safe, it's always clear. It avoids the risk of sounding inappropriate, awkward, or just plain wrong. Building that intuition really comes from observation.
Watching and listening to how native speakers do it.
Constantly. Pay attention. Who uses that phrase? To whom? In what kind of situation? What was the reaction? That passive data collection builds your internal sense of what works where.
And remember regional differences, again, especially for slang.
Yes, and don't overdo it. This is important. Natural language involves sprinkling these phrases in where they fit perfectly. Using an idiom or slang term in every other sentence sounds forced and unnatural. Less is often more.
Like adding spice to cooking. Too much ruins it.
Perfect analogy. And a final reminder, especially from academic sources. Avoid them in formal writing essays, reports, research papers, unless you are specifically analyzing language or quoting someone directly.
You're right. Formal writing demands precision and clarity, usually best achieved with standard vocabulary.
Exactly. So developing the sense of appropriateness takes time, exposure, practice, and probably a few mistakes along the way. But it's what really marks advanced proficiency.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot of ground here, taking a real deep dive into cracking the code of English idioms and slang.
We really have. We looked at why they're so important for sounding natural, moving beyond just textbook English. We defined the key differences between idioms, those fixed figurative phrases, and slang, the informal, ever-changing vocabulary.
Yeah, and we explored practical ways to actually learn them: context, themes, visualization for idioms, exposure, and caution for slang.
Then we gave some concrete examples of really common ones you can start listening for and maybe using. And finally talked about the crucial nuances: formality, audience, context, knowing when to use what.
It's definitely, as you said, a journey, not something you master overnight, and mistakes are okay.
Absolutely. Mistakes are how you learn, especially with something this nuanced. Every time you misuse a phrase or misunderstand one, it refined your internal map. The key is just to keep listening, keep noticing, keep trying.
Because the payoff is huge, right? You're not just learning lists of words.
Not at all. You're gaining real cultural insight. You're boosting your listening skills massively. And the big one, you start sounding more natural, more confident. You connect better with native speakers.
It really feels like unlocking a whole new level of the language.
It absolutely is. Moving from basic communication to a much richer, more textured understanding and use of English.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to take away from this deep dive. As you start paying more attention to idioms and slang, as you begin to understand them and maybe even use them, think about this. How does engaging with this secret sauce change not just what you can say in English, but how does it change your actual experience? How does it change how you connect with the English-speaking world around you?
What doors does it open? Not just linguistically, but culturally and socially.
Exactly. Something to ponder. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Keep listening, keep learning.
And keep sounding fantastic.
Thanks for listening. And if you found the video helpful, please hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so you never miss an episode and share it with others who might benefit. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. So your feedback is really important to us. And if you want to continue learning right now, here in this playlist, you'll find helpful videos for English listening practice. You might want to watch it next. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.